Hey guys, it's Frank. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm fully aware that at this point you probably think that I absolutely hate Toronto and that I cannot stand the city at all. Yes, Toronto, the city where Kawhi Leonard played 1 year of basketball with the Toronto Raptors, delivered a championship ring before laughing his way out of the sixth city. Now I understand that I made a video titled 6 Reasons Why You Shouldn't Move to Toronto, but I always felt that I should see things on the opposite end and give reasons as to why you may want to consider moving there, especially in your 20s. Because to be honest, when I have people ask me if I regret the decision to move to Toronto in the first place, I'm always quick to respond no, because I always felt it was the right decision to make at that stage in my life. So that being said, in this video, I'm going to be sharing why you should move to Toronto in your 20s. I will be detailing 5 personal things that I loved about Toronto when I lived there and why I feel it may be a great option for young individuals. If you're still watching this video and you haven't skipped any parts yet, I appreciate you can smash the like button as it may only be the only option before YouTube removes the dislike button. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump right into the video, starting off with the first item on the list. So to start things off, I moved to Toronto straight out of high school, where I was thrown into the fast-paced culture that existed there. And at a very young age, I learned how to adult, live on my own, and live below my means. My standard of living, especially in my rental apartment, definitely took in a hit. And in fact, I was actually living in a basement suite that had mice. However, as bad as it may sound, it made me work that much harder in my academics and in my work, as I really wanted to improve my lifestyle. I certainly recognize that when living in Toronto, that time management is essential. And oftentimes, you have to do everything in one shot. I remember in my first year of university when I commuted from the suburbs to downtown that I literally would have to bring a duffel bag that contained my lunch, my dinner, my textbook, my calculator, my pencil, everything. And yeah, if I left the house, I'm not going back because I recognize that it's gonna be an hour back and an hour there. So it was 2 hours that I did not have the time for. And because living expenses were so expensive, I knew I needed to save money and take advantage of the competitive market that existed in all industries in Toronto. I learned how to negotiate, save money by going to cheaper alternative for my groceries, my insurance, or even my internet bill. So as much as I complain about Toronto, there's one thing that I give credit for, and that was really accelerating my growth to develop that growth mindset. The second reason why you should move to Toronto is for post-secondary education. At the time of this recording, there are 22 colleges and 22 universities that any student could attend. But with that, I found that with more school options that I felt that students can really embrace of what they want to do long term and go into a school that dedicates fully into what they want to do long term. For example, I understood that OCAD University was great for individuals who had a passion for arts and design, while for Waterloo, it was great for individuals that had a high interest for computer science. If you live in a smaller city where there's 1 or 2 universities, there very well may still be that program that you wish to attend, but you can realistically tell that there's not as much of an emphasis on it compared to other programs. And because of the sheer number of schools that exist in Toronto, I find that there's a lot of more students and youth or young professionals within the city. Actually, there exists so much youth in the city that I remember during my days in university that people would literally talk behind each other's back, saying how this person didn't go to that school or how much greater their school is compared to other people's. And at that point, I recognized how early the competitiveness that existed in Toronto. Regardless, there's just a lot more networking opportunities that you can certainly take advantage of, and then that way you can all find a job and work together. The third point that I want to address was the nightlife that existed in Toronto. And yeah, when you're in your early 20s, it seems like this is the only thing that you're looking forward to after finishing your accounting exam on a Friday. I lived in downtown Toronto, and I just recognized that there was just an abundance of late night bars, clubs, and patios. And if that's your thing, then yeah, I certainly recommend Toronto to be the go-to city for the nightlife. In fact, the nightlife is so crazy that you can't even bribe your way to cut the line. I tried. A $20 bill will not let you cut the line, and if you're a female, no pretty face will let you cut the line.
Sometimes.
I've actually heard of some stories of some young professionals who would literally party on a Thursday till 4 a.m. They'll go home for a couple hours to sleep, and then they'll go back to work for 8 a.m. for the consultant work, and only to do it again that Friday night. It's definitely a work hard, play hard environment in Toronto that I feel is very fun in your early 20s, but I feel as you get older can be quite exhausting. The fourth thing why you should move to Toronto is the number of events that the city holds every year. And clearly not during pandemic time, because the only eventful thing that's happening is not having to commute 90 minutes to work. In fact, there were so many events in Toronto to the point that I just felt like they just made things up. Like they'll literally just say AirPod Pro Day and
everyone gather to Dundas Square and we'll have such a great time.
From sporting events to concerts to parade, there are plenty to select and choose from. My personal favorites were all the marathon events that were held in Toronto because one, it got me into marathon running, and secondly, it just pissed off everyone that was driving because they'll just literally block the roads of all the main roads in Toronto, and everyone's like,
I hate runners, I hate them.
But yes, I love marathon running and I love attending Toronto Raptor games. The last thing I wanted to address as to why you should move to Toronto in your 20s is all the great food options that exist in the city. And honestly guys, I would literally consider buying a plane ticket right now just to go to Toronto and try back some of my favorite restaurants. Yeah, especially when you're younger, you have a higher metabolism, so try out all the different ethnic food that exists in Toronto. They're cheap, they're good, so why the heck not? And now that I'm based in Calgary, I recognize that your dollar definitely stretches a lot further in Toronto than compared to a lot smaller cities. And as much as I always complain about how competitive Toronto was, it's even competitive in the food industry, which is make good food or else I'm out. Like actually though, because I live in the center in Toronto, oftentimes I would walk down Yonge Street, which is one of the more popular streets in Toronto. And I recognize seeing new startup restaurants that would literally go out of business after 1 or 2 months. And my theory is the food just wasn't good enough. Okay, quite honestly, I'm not sure as to why they closed. There could be various reasons, but I just like to think that price point didn't meet the taste point. So with that, I kind of just imagined that restaurants just had to stay competitive with their food quality and the prices, or else they're just gonna go out of business. The food in Toronto is just so good to the point that there are days where I'm just so lazy, but I don't want to go through the flock of people that exist in Toronto that I call Uber Eats to have my food delivered very well to my doorsteps. Oh, and by the way, just throwing it out there, if anyone that doesn't have Uber Eats and wants to sign up for Uber Eats, my code for my Uber Eats is down in the description below. You'll get $10, I get $10, we'll both be eating good food. Feel free to use my Uber Eats code anytime. So to conclude this video, I just wanted to say overall that I never once regret the decision to move to Toronto. I truly believe moving there straight out of high school and living there in my early 20s was one of the best decisions that I made for myself. I learned to hustle, to drive, and simply just getting things done sooner rather than later. And if you're curious and you want to know 2 things that I miss about Toronto, I can certainly answer that quickly and say that it's my lifelong friendships and all the good food that existed in Toronto. But as I grew older in the city, I recognized that my priorities changed, and I recognized and was starting to feel that I needed to take a chance on faith and see what it was like to live in Calgary, and that's where I am currently. So with that in mind, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all in my next video.